This week, true crime takes center stage as Madison Opera presents the world premiere of Everlasting Fate by Madison composer Scott Gendel. Based on the true story of the 1897 Greenbrier ghost, Everlasting Fate is a ghost story, a thrilling drama, and an all-American opera. Don't miss your chance to see it on February 13th and 15th in the Capitol Theater. Tickets at madisonopera.org. Our local farmers are getting ready for the growing season ahead, and now is the time to consider signing up for a CSA, or a community-supported agriculture share. A CSA share is like a subscription box to the freshest, most flavorful food your local farm has to offer. When you join a CSA, you invest in the farm at the start of the season, and in return, receive a share of the harvest throughout the growing season. Find your farm today using FairShare's interactive farm search map at csacoalition.org/farm-search. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, will you go to the opera with me? The Madison Opera is putting on its first world premiere in 33 years this weekend, entitled Everlasting Fate. The plot is stirring and historical. Ahead of the premiere, we thought it best to hear about this production firsthand and get a scoop on Madison's opera scene, what you should expect from a show, terms you should know, all of the stuff. So let's get into it. I'm here with the composer of this premiere, Scott Gendel. He's also Madison Opera's principal coach and accompanist for many years. Scott, hello.
Hello, good to be here.
And the director of the Madison Opera, the big boss herself, Catherine Smith. Catherine, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, so out of transparency, I should say the Madison Opera is a sponsor of the show. That said, this podcast is 100% editorially independent of our sponsors. As a lover of the arts, I was just genuinely interested in this show and having this conversation. So I am truly stoked, y'all, about this production, as I imagine both of you are. I love hearing the words first world premiere in decades. The story seems rich and spooky. There's drama, betrayal, murder. It's based on a true story. So that's my tease. We're going to dig into the premiere production. But before we do, why should folks go to the opera? For someone who's opera curious, or maybe even unsure if it's their scene, what does the opera offer? And Catherine, I'll start with you, and Scott will come to you next.
Sure. I mean, opera is the original multimedia art form. It has singing, it has orchestra, it has acting, it has sets, costumes, dancing, it has drama, it has comedy. Some operas make you cry, some operas make you laugh. Opera has these really big emotions that can reach you wherever you are at certain moments in your life. And it really transcends time and place. The fact that we are still performing operas that were written 300 years ago and they still impact us today where we are as much as they did people 200 years ago someplace else just speaks to the magic of the music. And the fact that opera's always been for the people. It's always been intended for normal people to just sit down and be absorbed by it. And every generation falls in love with it. I fell in love with it in high school. We all fall in love with it at some point.
And Scott, how about you? What would you say?
Oh, no. Catherine said so many smart things. It's really hard for me to think what to add to that.
For real.
But, I think I was definitely someone who didn't really understand opera until about college age, because I had sort of avoided it because I thought that was what people dressed up fancy and went to and sort of were detached. And then when I went, I was like, oh, this is like, there is, blood and guts and exciting things and big, powerful music that really moves me. And I was a metalhead when I was younger. I still am a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is great. It's like so powerful and emotional, and the storytelling and the acting and everything's acoustic. There's no amplification. So there's like all this, just like hearing the sound of humans making this incredible music and acting right there for you is just so powerful. I'm really moved by it. And it became one of my favorite things.
Well, I appreciate us getting into like what the image is versus what the experience is like. Catherine, can you talk a little bit about what is it like to be at the opera? Like, what is the culture today? And is there any etiquette at shows? Like, I'm sure people are thinking there are rules and
I know we fight against what I call the Hollywood stereotype every day. And the stereotype keeps getting manufactured over and over again because it's such an easy one. Like you have to wear a tuxedo and everyone's going to look down on you if you don't act a certain way. And that's never been what opera is, ever, ever. It is people wear whatever they want. Some people really like to get dressed up because they don't get to dress up in their daily lives. And so it's a special event. Some people come in jeans. So I always say wear what you feel comfortable in. If it's snowing, dress appropriately. The etiquette is, the old golden rule, which is you're surrounded by your fellow citizens. Be nice is what I would say. But there aren't hard and fast rules other than to sit in your assigned seat. Going to the opera is like being in any other public space. You're with other people in your community and you're all sharing this same experience together in real time, treating each other with kindness and reacting to hundreds of people performing for you together. And you applaud, you may cry, you may laugh, but there's no, you must do exactly this at exactly this time, other than show up before the curtain, sit down in the seat assigned to you, and, mostly be quiet during the music.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you bring up Hollywood, and right now I'm watching the award-winning Gilded Age, and there's lots of opera in the Gilded Age, and I'm loving it. It's also, reinforcing that image that opera is for connected socialites and only the upper class at least in the high seats.
I would say in the Gilded Age, that's who paid for it, and they're in expensive seats. But I guarantee you in that old Metropolitan Opera House, the people sitting 2 floors up were the immigrants who were living in a different part of New York City, who loved opera just as much. And they were there every night too. And for them, opera mattered just as much. It simply wasn't about the Gilded Age plot of marriages and all of that.
Totally. I do like to dress up, so I like that opportunity, but also you don't have to get crazy. It's for everyone, and I'm glad that we set it up that way. I'll say the opera we're talking about, this world premiere, is so interesting. The story has me very excited, and it's set in America, Appalachia, Let's talk about it. Starting with the name of the opera itself, Everlasting Faint, is a term really a 19th century era dismissive diagnosis for a woman's unexplained death. So, Scott, can you give us a synopsis, the short history on Everlasting Faint, and just what this story is based on?
Sure. So it's known as the story of the Greenbrier Ghost. And there is a young woman, Elva Zona Heaster-Shue, who got married in 1897 in West Virginia and 4 months later was found dead. And the doctor came to do the exam and sort of was blocked by the husband from really doing a good exam, was like, oh, it's fine. It's women problems, because they were just so dismissive of women's issues in those days. And something didn't sit right about it with her mother. And soon afterwards, her mother started being visited by her ghost. And her ghost was saying, no, they're lying. You have to have them dig up my body. He broke my neck. He murdered me. And, who knows what's actually true, but her mother was visited by her ghost, and her mother sort of went on this quest to find justice for her daughter and eventually convinced them to exhume the body. And sure enough, her neck was broken. And eventually they did convict him of murder. So we based it on that story because it's just such a cool story. The librettist, Sandra Flores Strand, who wrote the words, she had heard a tidbit of this when she was working on something else and heard only court case won thanks to testimony of a ghost. And she was like, I need to write that opera immediately.
The way that I got so excited to share what the opera was about, I feel like I'm like, have you heard about this story today? But it's set in the late 1800s, right?
Yeah, it's so good. It's set in the late 1800s. It's been the subject of actually a number of true crime podcasts, and there's some books. It's just such a really cool story. And it turns out there were other women in his past. So we actually have 3 ghosts in our version of it, including other wives. And it's sort of like a ghost story makes for great theater. It makes for great music. Writing ghost music is so fun. There's also, it's a story about domestic abuse and how, finding a path forward from that, finding some sort of hope out of that story and a way forward, which feels relevant, even though it's a story from 1897. And also you were talking about Appalachia. I mean, it was so fun to get to use some Appalachian folk ideas and introduce some Appalachian folk musical style in there. And it was just really such a great story to make an opera from.
Yeah, there's a Dolly Parton podcast I listened to a couple of times. It was so impactful. Jad Abumrad from Radio Lab did it. And there was a whole episode about songs written about men killing their wives. And so there's this long tradition that's very obviously distasteful, but was normal. And this story is just so wild. I do want to ask, Catherine, what did you see in this story and production as a strong fit for the Madison Opera stage?
So I first saw this, Scott and Sandra wrote it in 2021, 2022, and did a workshop at UW-Madison, a piano reading with Scott at the piano and UW students. And I went to listen because I adore Scott, I adore Scott's music, and I thought I will go and be supportive. And Act 1 ends with the three ghosts and the mother swearing they will find justice and calling for vengeance. And it is the coolest ending of an Act 1 ever. Just four women, fortissimo, saying, we will have revenge. And I was leaning forward in my chair saying, this is really good. And then Act 2, which really picks up the pace, and there's a drinking song, and justice is found. By the end of it, I thought, Madison Opera needs to be the company that commissions the finished product and premieres it. The story, the music, everything about it was just great. I go to a lot of new opera. I travel around. I go to a lot of new opera. When I see a really good new opera, I try to produce it here. Many new operas are not great. I'm saying that carefully. Their stories or their music don't draw me in. And this one just had something. I love the way that they give voices to these women who in life didn't really have voices. And then just the music's fabulous too. There's great choral writing. There's, again, a drinking song. There's folk songs. There's what we call the rage rock anthem for the mother. It's just everything that the teenage me fell in love with about opera, which is just the power of women's voices, is in this opera.
Scott, can you talk about what production-wise and composition-wise are you most proud of in this premiere, folks? Hopefully we'll go see.
Everything is getting me really excited. I'm like a little kid in a candy store all the time right now. I get very excited. There's an autopsy scene, which like theatrically, putting an autopsy on stage in an opera is a wild thing to do. And the entire cast is involved because they're witnesses, but also we had to have everyone on stage. So there's like the murderer trying to distract everybody, and there's the chorus sort of setting this creepy scene, and there's the mother having a sort of panic attack about how she thinks she's failed her daughter because she sees her daughter on the table there, and there's the ghost there trying to comfort her mother, and there's all these things happening at once. It's just a wild thing to have happen on stage, and then also has this really emotional core in it. The daughter's ghost sort of stops the autopsy scene and sings this aria about how much she loves her mother and reconnects with her mother there, and it's a really emotional moment. And I'm really proud of sort of getting all those things happening at once. You know, it's really fun to do just a million different things. I think a thing opera does really well that's almost impossible to do in any other art form is have, 5 things happening on stage at the same time and they all feel understandable.
It's like the definition of forte, the emotional resonance when you're describing everything that's happening there. And it really, moving from subterfuge and betrayal, but the core line here is the love, right? The love that the mother and these people have for her daughter and this woman that her life was ended in such a horrific way. So I do want to play a little bit of sound from the show. And this is a folk song inspired piece sung by the chorus and leading characters. And Scott, you play the piano on it, called Little Sparrow. And it shows some of that emotional depth and just it gives people a taste. Scott, is there anything you can share to help set up this song and what it means to the opera?
This is one of my favorite moments in the opera. You were talking about the Dolly Parton podcast, which I also listen to. It's great.
Dolly Parton's America.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You were talking about it in all those sort of folk songs about murder. This is based on one of those folk songs. Sandra took some of the text from one of those songs and started with that. And then instead of having her die at the end, which every version of this folk song does, It's about sort of seeing a sparrow and wishing you could escape is what the traditional song is, and then she can't and she dies. In this version, we have her transform into a sparrow herself and fly away, and it's sort of a whole metaphor for the show about escaping the pain and finding a hopeful path forward. So we took a folk song and wrote something that was kind of folk-like. My music for it is not specifically folk music, but it's sort of inspired by folk music. I've listened to a lot of Appalachian folk music. It's a real favorite of mine. And sort of inspired by that music, wrote this folk song-like melody that then goes into something much more operatic and quirky as we sort of take that moment to, instead of being stuck in that pattern, escape and fly away.
One day that fair and trusting lady, she chose to leave this life behind. Instead of laying down and dying, she changed her form into a bird.
I mean, it's absolutely beautiful and harrowing and uplifting. It's all of these feelings at once. And I want to ask you, Scott, what do you most hope folks take away from the show?
A thing I love about this show, and I love about opera in general, is there's so many big emotions, and I think there's like a real vulnerability to being in a room with a lot of people and feeling all those things, and sort of a sense of community about it, and a sense of just having all those feelings together. I really love that. And I want people to take from this show in particular, I think there's like really a sense of hope that comes out above all else, even though it's such a dark story. This opera is a lot about taking the darkness of that story and transforming it into a path forward and a hopeful way to move out of that space. And I think finding hopeful ways to make it through dark times feels like something people could use right now. I know I could use it right now.
Yeah, for sure. Also, I don't know if this is me spoiling this. It is a historical thing, but he goes to jail in real life, right? He was taken to task. So not to spoil.
One of my favorite things about the way this opera got written is when we were first writing it, I was like, oh, I don't know. Do we need to find out what happens to him? And really, like, he just gets run out of town and then we stop caring about him because it's not his story. It's these women's story. So we really focus on them, and I really appreciate that about it.
Well, you're talking about community, and Catherine, I did want to broaden the lens of this conversation. You shared, you see a lot of new shows. They're not that great always, and this one really is different. Does it have the power to impact the Madison opera scene, and what does it mean for Madison Opera and the programs that you do? Like, could it make a difference and bring folks in? Like, what do you think?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I mean, every opera we do has an impact on who our audience is and hopefully draws in new people and points out who we are artistically, because we're never one opera. We are La Bohème. We are a world premiere. We span 400 years worth of works. And doing a world premiere by a Madison composer is a really significant step in saying, we are capable of doing this too. So it is an expansion of who we are and showing sort of the company of who we are. In the cast are a number of singers who've sung many roles with us, a wonderful chorus who've been with us for many years. So in many ways, it feels like the artistic work of many years coming to fruition on stage. So it feels like a big artistic statement that way too.
And is this something, if it's world premiere, is the hope that this might travel at any point or be on other stages, Scott?
Absolutely. I mean, our hope for the piece, now that, especially once it exists and has had a premiere, and especially if lots of people in Madison come to see it and have positive reactions to it, which I hope they will, then we sort of start pitching it to other companies. We start having various people see it and experience it, and hopefully it makes the rounds and goes lots of places.
What is the Madison opera scene like? Can you share, raise the curtain a little bit in terms of the whole scene?
So in terms of the people who put on the operas, we have different principal artists for every opera who come in from out of town. Some might live here. We have our chorus, the Madison Symphony Orchestra, amazing production personnel. And some have been with us for many years. Some come in new every year. We have studio artists who are fresh out of graduate school. And the way opera companies work is that singers will work together on one opera, and 4 years later, they'll work together on another opera. And so these relationships form very fast and become very close. So in this opera, for example, are two characters who were both in Candide here together a couple years ago, and two other characters that were in La Boheme with us 10 years ago, all working together. So that's on stage. The audience, what I love about our audience, people think there is an opera audience. They think they know what an opera audience is. We have the broadest audience in terms of age range. We have college students, high school students, but mostly college students, on up to hitting the 3 digits. We really span that much of an age range, which is wonderful. Because people, whether they come to opera for the first time in their 20s when they're college students or in their 30s, I know people who saw their first opera when they were 75 and still had many years left to enjoy it, We get it all, and they're all sharing the same real-time experience. And I think that's something really magical about opera, that many generations can see the same thing and enjoy it. And I really love that about this art form.
So, Everlasting Fate is a story, as mentioned, in U.S. history. And being in English, you think that, would make it more accessible to folks, for sure. I fancy myself as a globalist. I majored in international studies, amongst other things. Love world art, studied Spanish and French. And sometimes the opera intimidates me around the language, even though my name is Italian, but words like libretto that came up, aria, I feel a bit out of the loop sometimes. Scott, is there a quick primer you could give the good to know opera words to help us feel like, or newcomers feel like insiders and we're not so trying to figure it out in real time?
Aria basically just means a solo for someone, a song for them to sing as a separate thing than the conversation parts. I'm trying to think what other Italian terms. Recitative is one that gets used a lot, which is basically like a part where lots of people are talking to each other instead of like a standalone song. It's more speech-like. But also, you don't need to know any of that stuff. Like, if you go to the opera, it's entertaining. It's right there. Even the ones not in English, there's super titles above the stage that translate it for you. Even in this one that is in English, there are super titles above the stage, so you will see those, which, is how so many people watch TV now, and including me sometimes. Like, it's really helpful.
That's such a fair point. And frankly, Bad Bunny, who, did the Super Bowl performance, is like, actually, I don't even need you to know what I'm saying. I just would like you to dance. Like, that would be good if you started dancing. It's about the feeling. And I really appreciate that point. And I want to ask about some recommendations for getting the best experience. And now we're talking about broadly going to a Madison opera. I recently tried to go to the Madison Opera, and this is a pretty embarrassing story, but I learned a couple things the hard way, which it was the night I went on. It was apparently a big night for downtown Madison, and there were 5 shows happening, and I was trying to get into one of the parking ramps, and man, I have never seen it so congested. And then I made a series of choices that made the situation worse, and needless to say, I was late, along with 20 other people, for what it's worth, because there was so much congestion. I was trying to see Puccini's La Boheme, which I did see a part of it. The second thing that I learned, because I was late, they were bringing us in at a quiet point. It was beautifully quiet. It's hard to find silence anymore. But I thought I was over a cold I had 2 weeks earlier. I was not. And I had a coughing attack and no cough drops with me. And you are sitting really close to other people. And I do not have the social skin to sit there and I basically left. But what I saw, again, was incredible. And I guess I ask in part, what are some recommendations you have so folks can maybe avoid the humiliating, embarrassing situation that I had? But yeah, any tips for a good experience?
I will tell you an equally, not humiliating, but just the reality. We're all human. We cough. I get dry throat all the time, and I now carry cough drops. But a number of years ago, we were doing Beethoven's Fidelio, and I always sit on the end row of the circle so that I can quickly get backstage if I need to. And lights went down, the overture started, and I could tell I was about to have the world's biggest coughing fit. I don't mean like a delicate little cough. I mean like on the floor, just coughing my lungs out. So I left because the last thing anyone needed was the head of the company just coughing. So I literally left the theater, and the ushers were wondering probably what was going on. I was out in the hallway coughing probably for 3 minutes and then snuck back in. So you have my deepest sympathies. It's the worst thing in the world, and there's nothing you can do about it. Bring cough drops, bring water. I will say, now that we allow drinks in the theater, even if you don't want to drink, if you're dry, bring water. It can really help. But, oh, I feel for you. That's so sorry. And I remember Friday night OM, it wasn't just the parking, it was the traffic. Half of our chorus was late. Half of our audience was late. It was the traffic getting to Madison that night was really bad. We had child choristers, I remember, arriving 5 minutes before curtain. People just couldn't get there. And it wasn't just the parking. And we held curtain. And yeah, it was just one of those nights.
Okay. It felt like it.
I remember because I give a pre-show talk an hour before curtain. And normally, bluntly, that room is full when I walk in. And it was half empty. And I thought, oh, we're in trouble. And yes. And that's happened occasionally. And some of it is John Nolan being under construction, all the pathways into the isthmus, all the construction, all the roads under construction, simply getting here in Madison for the next few years takes more time than we all wish it would. So first thing is, please allow a lot more time just simply to drive into Madison than you think. Because yes, the weekend of Everlasting Faint, every theater at Overture has a show going on, which is wonderful. There is a Broadway show in Overture Hall, the ballet in Promenade Hall. There's a play by Forward downstairs, and then there's our new opera. You literally could see all four. And there's a basketball game on Friday night. And people just like Madison, so they come downtown. So real advice, plan lots and lots of time to come down, more than you ever think you need. Think of multiple options for parking. Come down and have dinner. Come down for my pre-show talk. Just give yourself time. It is the reality of Madison. A great thing about living in a city with so much going on is that everyone wants to come downtown. Just give yourself a lot of time. And especially if you're coming to Everlasting Faint on Friday in particular, give yourself a lot of time. And bring cough drops and water.
I feel so much better, honestly, because it was a whole thing. So
there were a lot of people. I want to say maybe 100 people were late or more, and we held that curtain for 15 minutes. We started late. It happens.
Yeah, it was one of those moments in the coughing attack too, where my partner's like, don't try and get up right now. But it was the same exact thing because you move in and we're already late and we didn't have the the context that I now have.
You never have a coughing fit in the loud moments, always during the quietest arias. I mean, I don't know if Scott remembers, during a rehearsal for this piece, during one of the rehearsals of Elva, that's the ghost, the daughter, has this beautiful, beautiful aria where she, in the autopsy scene, where she's telling her mother how much she loves her and that it's not her fault that she died. And Tori Adams, who's singing the role, is singing so beautifully. And I started to cough. And I just got out of the room. I thought, I can't disturb this rehearsal as the head of the company by having a coughing fit in front of them. So instead, I just left.
You and I both. I know there are other people out there listening. If you're with us, we feel your pain. And the conscientiousness that we have makes it worse. And then your throat gets more dry because you're like, I can't do this right now. Oh, no. The second I thought, I hear some people coughing right now. Oh, no, I don't have cough drops. Throat got dry and it was terrible. So here's the thing. Everyone listening, if you're going, you bring your cough drops, definitely get water, go ahead, don't make yourself nervous, and then enjoy your experience. And Scott, hearing this, I just want to ask, what can audience members do to make the crew and the production have a good show? We want to be good and supportive. We hope this tours worldwide. What's a good audience?
I mean, I think a good audience just reacts in a genuine way to what's happening. It's got big emotions. It's got exciting stuff to listen to. It's got exciting stuff to watch. I think there's not a particular thing. Bring cough drops is great. I always have a pocket full of cough drops. I fill my pockets with cough drops before I leave the house. But also sometimes you cough and it's fine. I expect there to be people in the room who are humans and having human experiences, and just enjoy the show and have a good time and feel all the it's got a lot of big emotions in it, so you can feel the big emotions. We've had a couple of emotional moments probably a lot of emotional moments in the rehearsal room. It's fine. Just be present in the moment and enjoy it, I think, is really all I'd ask. And come.
Well, from us here at CityCast Madison, especially speaking just of myself, I'm including everyone. I'm sure they do feel this way, but just really proud and excited about this. It's been over 3 decades since there's been a world premiere. It's an exciting moment, and appreciate both of y'all taking the time to come on the show. Before I let you go, Catherine, I'll let you round us out with telling, what are some things on the horizon for Madison Opera this year that we should keep in mind and look forward to?
Well, immediately after this, our studio artists, who are the young singers I talked about, have some free recitals that Scott's playing for in March. So you can come here. They play smaller roles in the opera. You can come hear them sing bigger things. Then we have Mozart's Così fan tutte in April. And then this summer, we have the 25th year of Opera in the Park. We're launching a year-long celebration of Opera in the Park's 25th anniversary, starting this summer, and we're going to celebrate for an entire year up through the next year. So look for more on that. But that's the free concert we do in Garner Park for 10,000 people, and the weather will be perfect.
It is gorgeous. This has been so fun, and I feel all of the positive emotions. Thank you for coming on CityCast Madison. Scott, Catherine, just break a leg.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. This is great.
That was Everlasting Faint composer and Madison Opera's principal coach and accompanist Scott Gendel, and the director of the Madison Opera, Catherine Smith. The world premiere will have 2 performances at the Capitol Theater and Overture Center for the Arts this weekend on February 13th and 15th. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. Don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with someone who appreciates local arts and culture? Bonus points if they can hit a high C. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care and thanks for listening.